It's a shame you're not able to join us in person, but this is the next best thing. This is amazing.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for being so accommodating. Obviously, we'd love to have been there. We'll have to make sure the plan works for next time.
Absolutely. Linvoy, tell us a wee bit about your story. Some of us remember you who are old enough playing playing for Portsmouth in the Premiership. Might even remember you scoring a goal or two.
That's right.
Usually with your head, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, well, if anything went near my feet, it never really went where it's supposed to go, so my head was a bit more accurate.
Well, I have to say that as far as stopping the ball is concerned, as a defender, you've had a magnificent career, have you not? Well, I know you're not going to say that, but as you reflect on your career, tell us a wee bit about how things started and, how you get into football.
Yeah, so I think like most children, when you got an opportunity to play any sport, you just do it, and that was what I was like. So I grew up in East London, Stratford, and lived in a high-rise block of flats. And the opportunity to get out and play never came about too often. So only because of the things that were going on around the area that my parents tried to protect me from. So the opportunity to get out and play any sport, I just took it. But football came alive in me when I watched a cup final between Tottenham and Manchester City. And the Manchester City, it was a replay, and the Tottenham striker Ricky Villa scores this amazing goal. And,
I remember it well.
Say again?
I remember it well.
Oh, good. Yeah, it's well, and I suppose cup finals can be built up for a lot and not much happens, but this particular one and that goal, I think a lot of people will remember it. And at that moment he done that, and I thought, well, if he can do it, so can I. And that's where the dream started. And I made my first football pitch in my mum and dad's block in the flats in my mum and dad's alley of the house, and playing against my teddy bear. So that was where I scored my goals. That's when my goal scoring came to life. And then from there, it was a case of trying to play for a team. I didn't play for a team until I was 12. And I described it as being a veteran when I started, because nowadays you can be 5 or 6 and be selected for a professional club. And then from there, I got scouted by Charlton, which was amazing because I just knew that opportunity to be a professional footballer was getting a bit closer. And then at 16, I got offered an apprenticeship, but it wasn't as easy as just turning up, training and playing. In those few years, it was a case of there's not just me wanting to be a professional footballer. There was about 40 other boys, and the numbers started to dwindle. And by the end, by the time I got my apprenticeship, there was only 5 players who were still left, and I was one of the 5. So that was the moment where it came alive. It came to reality that I could actually be a professional footballer. But then the next 2 years were very difficult. Training every day, the physical aspect of it. My body wasn't strong enough going from schoolboy to men's football. So I had a lot of injuries, and trying to understand the culture of the dressing room as well. So a lot to learn, and I always say I was a boy in a man's world at that point.
And fast forward to your period at Portsmouth. You obviously were with Charlton and a few other teams, but it's probably Portsmouth that you've been particularly prolific. And Harry Redknapp was one of your managers who,
that's right,
whose sides you went in and out of, I think, didn't you? What was it like? You've really worked hard to get where you are, and yet your manager doesn't necessarily pick you.
That's one of the difficulties of being a sports person. Your performances, your training can be very good. The way you look after yourself can be very good. But yet the manager, in his wisdom, decides if you're good enough for the team or not. And early on in my Portsmouth career under Harry, he thought that I wasn't good enough, and he was prepared to let me go to another club. So that was difficult. But in the life of football, you know that's coming at some point. It's going to come. So the toughest thing I think I had from the age of, say, 18 to 28, 29 was trying to prove myself every time But I did think to myself, you know what, I'm up for this fight, but I knew I was still tired. Knew that you do this, you know, and every time a new manager comes in, you're doing it again, and you're doing it again. So, but I eventually got myself into that team, and you know, had an amazing time with Portsmouth. You know, promotion to the Premier League, playing against some of the best players in the country, in the world. Playing alongside some, you know, amazing players, household names that represented their countries as well. So, you know, in the end, what looked like it was going to be a difficult time, maybe not even being at that club, turned out to be the best spell of football in my career.
And you became a Christian, what, 2001 or thereabouts?
Yeah, that's correct.
Can you tell us a wee bit about that, and what difference that made to your playing, to your approach, your attitude?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me, becoming a Christian, I thought that being a Christian was just going to church on Sunday, and that's where you stayed, and I was going to be a secret Christian. But the whole point of making the decision to becoming a Christian was because I was tired of life. You know, my wife wasn't well. I had everything on paper that said you should be happy, and I still wasn't. And got invited to church, heard the message about Jesus dying on the cross for me because I didn't, have bad things in my life, and to have a relationship with God. And even though I didn't completely understand it, parts of it made sense. And in the end, I just thought, you know what, I do, the famous words, take a step of faith. And I, like I said at the beginning, I thought that would be it. But very quickly, it rolled into my football life in terms of I had good people around me who understood the culture of the dressing room, understood the difficulties footballers face, and they were willing to sit with me when I was going through the difficult times and read the Bible with me and show me scriptures that would help me understand who I was and who God and how Jesus saw me. And once I started to apply the Bible verses to the situations I was coming into, I had freedom and I had peace, because I realised that I was playing for an audience of one, playing for God. Because at that moment, leading up to that point, I thought that I had to please everyone. But if I just played for the one that gave me the gift, my life would change, and it really did change. And like I say, it was like the best spell of my career, and I definitely know accepting Jesus as my saviour was the turning point for me.
So it really freed you as far as being able to play better, probably.
Yeah, I think the way I described it, I played with peace. It didn't. I really wanted to win games. I was really competitive in everything that I'd done, but the outcome of a result didn't define who Linvoy Primus was. And when I realised that the Bible verse that really helped me through those moments was, whatever you do in word or deed, do for God. And I was like, what does that mean? And the chaplain just said, Lynn, just play for God, just play for Him. And I went onto the pitch, and it's like, God, this is for you. And all of a sudden, I was running, like Usain Bolt, and I was hitting the ball like Pele. But people were saying, Linvoy, you're different. And I could always turn around and say, it's because Jesus in my life, and He's given me the freedom and peace to allow me to play like this. And it helped me play much, much better.
And you mentioned the chaplains there, and Matt Baker's with us tonight.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, indeed. And chaplains have got alongside you at your clubs, have they, and been able to be a support and encouragement?
Oh yeah. Because one of the things, you'll understand this, Neil, because you've been around it. Players find it hard to trust anybody. Within the team environment, you have to look out for number one. Because if you're not in the team, the likelihood is you're going to lose your contract and all those things, but yet you've got to be part of a team. So if there's stuff going on in your private life that you can't share with anybody, who can you share it with? And the chaplain is the constant at a football club. He's the person you can go to offload, to get words of wisdom, to to get a different perspective on life, but a place of trust, a safe place. So when my relationship started to build with the chaplains at Portsmouth, I knew that I could go to them without anything. But what I was able to do was signpost other players to them as well. And I saw time and time again how the chaplains really helped a lot of players through good and bad times.
And not necessarily people with faith.
That's right. Yeah, it's trust, because when you think about it, you're in a macho environment, you can't show any weakness. But if there's a person there who doesn't care if you're a footballer, just cares for you as a man, that's somebody you can trust and who you can go to. So yeah, it's, the chaplain's not biased in who he speaks to, and I think a lot of the players started to recognise that.
And it is a man's world, but it's interesting that your daughter Atlanta is playing football in the States at the moment, and has played at under 19 England level. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, that's correct. She's the best footballer in the Primus family now.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. But you know what? Which is great, because there's no restriction. She's played, for 3 clubs, Chelsea being one of them, Yeovil. But what you see in the women's game is that still the appetite to play the game well but fairly. Technically, they're very gifted. The only thing that I'd say that will always be a struggle for the ladies' game is that it will always be eclipsed by the men's game, and you'll see players coming into it who'd like to make a career in it, but unfortunately they won't be able to because of the financial side of it as well. So I think you'll see a lot of young players coming in, but I don't think you'll see a lot of players having 10, 15-year careers.
And well, we wish Atlanta well, and that's great. Injury is a terrible thing, and it's an inevitable affliction in football. Some players do survive most of their career without that detriment or that hurt to your game and your well-being. What, in your own experience, did that feel like? Because you it was injury that stopped your game, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I was fortunate, really. I had a number of years where I'd have strains and pulls, but I never. The closest I got to breaking anything was a hairline fracture. So I was out for 6 weeks, but I never had anything that like any impact injuries. But it's still a lonely place when you're injured, because you know that the thing you want to do, and the energy in you to get out on that pitch and run around and score or defend, whatever it is, you can't do. So it can be a lonely place. When I had my injury that ended up stopping me playing, I had 2 operations, and I missed the season. 2 operations on my knee, and I ended up missing the season. But in that time, and being a Christian as well, I had a lot of thinking time, a lot of time to understand that God has a plan for my life. And if football ended at that moment after those operations, even though I wasn't totally comfortable with it, I had a thought process, well, there must be something else for me to do. But fortunately, I had another year, but in that year, I knew I wasn't the same player. So it was like I was deconditioning slowly but surely. So by the time I came to retirement again, because the knee wasn't in a condition to keep playing, I was ready, and it was like a big weight off of my shoulders. But I've seen it work the other way for players where they can't cope with it. And unfortunately, you hear some very sad stories of stuff going on in their private life that you hope that will never happen to anyone, but it does. And so the 2 sides of it are people who prepare for retirement, cope a bit better. The ones that don't, they really have a tough time.
And Linvoy, could you tell us a bit about your work now with Christians in Sport? And obviously, your experience in football must give you an insight that allows you and enables you to get alongside players. Tell us about what you're doing now.
Yeah, so I work with Christians in Sport in the capacity where there's a performance team who oversee a number of different areas in sport, and my area is football. And I suppose the easiest way to describe it, I'm a mentor to players who have got a faith in Jesus, people that are searching, or even some of the guys, it's again who haven't got a faith, haven't, not in that particular space, but a challenge where they are in their life at the moment. So it's really exciting, because one of the things you learn, or you're taught as you hear from managers, is you have to earn the right to play, and that means you might have to have a battle, you might have to, before you can play your style of football in a particular game. And because of my background of being in the game for a while, when I go into any club, because they know that I've played, there's a trust element straight away, and they open up very quickly. So that's really, really helpful. But what I've found in the last 2 or 3 years is that players are very confused about their identity, and to be able to talk through things in their lives and relate them to where I was and what I was going through, you've seen a lot of good things happen. But I also recognise that the game is changing. Financially it's changing. The demands are different. The social media side of it is different. So yeah, it's something. It's nearly like you're learning on your feet, because it's been 7 years since I've retired. It's been 9 years since I've played 90 minutes at the highest level. So really, I'm like the old granddad when I go in. But like I say, because I've got no agenda, because I haven't, most players will see, if someone approaches them for about anything, they'll be thinking, what do they want? What do they want from me? So because there's no agenda, there's a real openness and an opportunity to get alongside and help them on their journey.
Great. And have you ever played with any Scottish footballers?
Yes, but they're going to be granddads in everyone's eyes, I suppose, because of their age. But Robert Fleck, had the pleasure of playing with Robert Fleck. I was managed by Tommy Burns when I was at Reading, so I had a good time with him. And trying to think of.
Did you understand them?
Well, it took me a little while, but I got there in the end. When he was telling me off, I was just smiling, so I was all right. So
that's right, just nod.
Yeah, but what was good? There was a real professionalism that they brought into the dressing room, and because of what they'd achieved in the game, especially obviously Tommy and Packy Bonner as well. What they'd achieved. There was an instant. Wow, you've got to listen to these guys because they played for great clubs and represented the country and stuff like that. So it was good to experience that. Really good to experience that.
Excellent. Well, Tommy Burns, he managed at Killie too, which was he's a bit of a legend up here with Celtic and Kilmarnock. Yeah, and you hope to come up to Scotland as well to be involved in supporting players, don't you?
Yes, yeah. I came up. Probably about 2.5 years ago, and I was able to get into Hibs and meet a couple of the staff there, and meet some of the younger performance athletes who are involved in athletics and football, and have a chat with them. And I spoke in a couple of churches. So it'd be great to get back up, and I'm sure 2 or 3 times a year I'll be up to work alongside yourself and Mark Fleming. Hi, Mark. I think you're there tonight. Again, to encourage each other and just see, be able to find out who the players are and offer some support in some way to them as well.
Yes, fantastic. And you're a legend at Pompey, at Portsmouth. How have you handled that? You're a laid back guy anyway. You probably doesn't get to you just by nature, but I imagine handling fame might be quite difficult at times. How do you get on with that?
Yeah, I think because I've been married to my wife, or we've been together 26 years, and so we've done the journey through that, the ups and downs of what football brings you, and because we've seen the nature of what football can do, it can lift you up and drop you very quickly. We've always always said, and we've always spoken it out, that we want to keep our feet in the real world, no matter how big or or I'm trying to think of the right words here. How big the Primus name gets, in terms of Premier League or international football. That in the house at home, I'm a husband, I'm a dad, and we always used to say to the children, everybody might want dad's autographs or pictures, but when the front door shuts, he's your dad, and so we've always kept it that way. And when the profile started to change, it was difficult for us as a family because, to go shopping, just go food shopping to pick up little bits could take about an hour. So that got me out of shopping, to be fair. I didn't have to go shopping that often. So
That's a good excuse.
So it could have been difficult, but I think we try to keep our friendships in a place where, we're very guarded as well. We didn't allow people into our lives that only wanted to know us because of the world of football. So that helped, but we didn't get it right all the time. And because of being a Christian and understanding, that actually football isn't everything, but what Jesus done for me is more important. That in itself gave a sense of perspective in terms of what fame and fortune can give you, but actually what Jesus gives you is much more.
Sure.
Yeah, and that's it. And my parents, I'm so blessed to have parents who never used to show off about anything. They just get along with and do things. You don't realise how much you learn by just watching, and they help me understand that as well. And don't get me wrong, we've had nice things. We've been on lovely holidays, but once again, we've tried not to let that be our identity. And like I said, but we haven't got it right all the time.
And Linvoy, just finally, for Faith and Fitba tonight, what message would you like to leave with us? What thing would you like to especially ensure that we remember from interviewing you?
I think one of the something I always hold in my heart. I chased my dream from the age of 8 years old, of being a footballer, and I thought that would give me the happiness, the joy, the rewards that say, yeah, your life is going to be perfect. But time and time again, I was let down by football. Time and time again, I was let down by the things around football. And it wasn't until somebody spoke to me about Jesus, 28 years old, spoke to my wife and myself about Jesus, that it not only challenged me, but it started to bring me to a place where I realised there was more to life than football. And I'd say anybody in the room this evening, life is going to throw so many things at you, good, bad and ugly, but that's life. But I think the big question is, what is life about? And even though, like I said, I took a step of faith in accepting Jesus as my saviour, and I took a step of faith of following this Christian life and everything like that. But what I realised by taking that step of faith, by asking lots of questions, that things started to make sense. And even though things don't make sense all the time, I've got a hope for my future. And I think that's the thing I would leave with everybody. Ask the questions, because there's a hope that I want everybody to have. And once you got that, it's great. It really is.
Fantastic. There is hope.
There is hope.
Fantastic meeting you again today.
Thank you, Neil. Yeah.
And we wish you and your wife and your family all God's very best. Thanks so much, Linvoy.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much. Look forward to seeing you again soon.